about 25 years now. Today what I want to show you is some issues with the Stair Master 4000 PT, and more on the lines of pedal drops, pedal skips, non-fluid motions within your pedal stroke. You ready? Let's get started. Okay, so what I want to show you first is the actual sequence of what happens when you're stepping on your 4000 PT. As you push down on the pedal, the chain pulls across your first drive sprocket down inside here. This is actually clamping down on a shaft which moves your drive chain. Okay, then your drive chain goes down to your transmission, and then from your transmission to the other side it goes over to your alternator. But as your drive chain goes down, it spins the shaft, which turns the chain, which goes down into the transmission, and then you have a belt that is attached to the alternator, and the alternator gives you resistance. But anyway, within these systems here, you can get skips, pops, things in the chain link. So we're going to go over exactly what some of the things I've found in the field. As your pedal drops, okay, so as your pedal drops, you pull our chain. One of the first pops, clicks, or even a small drop can be within the chain itself. If this chain hasn't been lubricated in a while, it can actually freeze up the links to where they're, in this kind of a position. They can actually freeze up the links to where they're kind of in this kind of a position here. And as your pedal drops, it'll straitraighthen that link out. But if this thing is all rusted up, it will be stuck here. And it gets stuck because it goes over this sprocket, and then it'll keep this angle in the chain if it's rusted. So then when you come down on this side, your body weight straightens out that part of the chain. Well, since it's rusted, it doesn't really want to straighten out easily, so it actually will pop straight. And then you will get one of your first feelings through the chain. So make sure that your chains aren't rusted. The way to check a chain, it's real easy. Take your spring off, pull your pedal all the way down, and then just run your finger over that chain like that. And as you can see, because of all of the maintenance that I do to this machine, this chain looks really good. Now what will happen is if I get a link that's not frozen, it'll come up straight, and it'll be two links like that kind of messed together. But anyway, check your chain, make sure that's not one of the issues. Okay, the next area is going to be within these sprockets right here. These drive sprockets, the first sprocket that the chain comes over, they are a ratchet sprocket, which means they grip on the way down, but then they slip to let the pedal come back up. And what can happen with these, if they haven't been lubricated, they can rust, they can wear out, and inside here you have several kinds of pins. One pin, they're long, skinny pins, and they're totally round, and that makes for all the slipping and the rolling action back and forth. The other type of pin that's in there is not totally round. It's almost oblong in a way, so that when the pedal goes backwards, it flips over and slides, but then when you push down, that oblong will come down and lock into the shaft itself. Now, if the oblong section of this gets worn, well then it can't clamp down on the shaft that's inside of here, and it can skip, fall, and drop. Also, these can develop cracks in the housings of these things. That's why it's nice to have ones that have the grease zerk so that you can easily lubricate that. Moving on. Okay, moving on. So we're back on the other side now. And again, we've pushed our pedal, we've checked our chain, and then back behind this drive, there's that sprocket, the ratchet sprocket, okay, which is clamping on the shaft. Well, when that clamps, it moves this main drive. As these chains get worn, they start to loosen up. And the word is that your chain has stretched. Chains actually don't stretch. But what happens is when you have 90 to 100 of these little pins going through all of these chains, without lubricant, they start to wear. And the wearing of the pins 90 times cause that extra slack. And if this chain is too worn and too loose, when you press down, it'll actually skip on these sprockets down here because it won't stay tight on that. Okay, so that's another issue right here that can cause your 4000 PT to skip or pedal drop or something to that effect. Okay, this is the actual hub and how it sets in. You can see here is the inner sprocket for the drive, and here is the left side. This would be right and left sides. Here's your main drive sprocket. What can happen is that the bearings inside this hub here can get worn and go bad, and that can create some slack inside this main sprocket right here. So if your drive chain slips, one of the things to check is for this looseness in this shaft. And again, the reason for the looseness in this shaft is that on this main hub right here, there's bearings that are down inside this area that are actually worn out. And so when that happens, the chain pulls the sprocket forward, it loosens up the chain, and so the chain will skip on the drive sprocket. When you're diagnosing where these skips and clips are, in the chain and in this first ratchet drive sprocket type, whenever you have a problem within one of these issues, it's only going to be on the right or the left pedal. If you're pushing down on your left pedal and it only skips on that side, well, then the things would be to check on would be the chain on that side and the ratchet pulley on that side. Now we're back to if both pedals skip at the same time. Well, normally what we'd be looking at is, first off, is going to be related to the drive chain, because they both are skipping at the same time. This drive here is related to both pedals at the same time. The sprockets that you have back up in this first drive section here, when they skip and fall, it's going to be right or left side, and the issues are going to be in that right or left side of that drive assembly, this whole drive assembly here. Okay, then we go down into the chain, and if the chain is loose, you can get a skip in both pedals that way. Then the other thing would be on the other side is that your drive belt is slipping. A lot of the times with the drive belt slip, though, you will hear a squeak, and that's just a matter of tightening up your alternator with the adjustments on the alternator. Okay, except for the set screws that are on the pulley and the sprocket on the transmission, that pretty much concludes the mechanical portion of the video. Now what I want to show you is just a quick alternator test. If you have both pedals that are still falling to the floor, you could have a bad alternator, you could have a bad load resistor. What I've done is I've removed the wires off of my B+ terminal and off of my field terminal, and I've put a red jumper wire across the two. Now you get on your stepper and you pedal as fast as you can, and it's kind of cartoon fast. If your alternator's good, it'll kick in and give you resistance. If your alternator's bad, or if your load resistor's bad, it'll continue just to keep spinning along as it is. Well, I want to thank you very much for buying the video. Don't feel like you've been left in the dark. If the video you watched hasn't done anything for you, or you still have a stepper problem, feel free to email me, Mark E. Peterson at austin.rr.com. Thanks again. Good luck.